Based on the widely accepted theory, Origin of Life by Charles Darwin, we could explain how life adapted to the existing environment via natural selection process. But the theory could not explain how the first form of life originated from the non-living things on Earth to a complex living organism. Based on the recent advancement in the field of physics, biochemistry, and molecular biology, we now know that life we know today is a very complex form of protein machine. Yes, a molecular protein ball. The primary living form of life is known to be a microscopic structure called cell. Cells are made of different protein molecules, and these proteins are made of different types of amino acids via a process called protein synthesis. Protein synthesis is a very complex process where amino acids are arranged in a specific sequence of chain to form a protein. The proteins that we know today are created from 20 to 30,000 different types of amino acids. Most primitive living things were made up of one cells, called unicellular organisms. Many other living things that we know today are made up of large number of cells that form a plant or animal. These living things are known as multicellular organisms. Am I throwing a lot of details? Let's go with the first principle to understand the life we know. Big Bang Theory, the most convincing theory widely accepted by most scientists today. Big Bang Theory proposed that 13.7 billion years ago, our universe emerged from a singularity. Although no one could explain how everything came from nothing, this is the most accepted theory that can explain how galaxy, stars, sun, solar system could have formed from Big Bang. Let's zoom into the small speck of this universe, our Earth. Approximately 4.6 billion years ago, our solar system was a cloud of dust and gas known as solar nebula. Most likely after a supernova explosion, the gravity collapsed the cloud of dust and gas material in on itself as it began to spin, forming the sun in the center of the nebula. Gravity continued to attract the remaining particles together, clumping them into larger bodies, ultimately forming the Earth and other planets in our solar system. When the Earth cooled down from hot molten material after the supernova, it ended up with hard rocks. These rocks are made up of many different types of elements formed from nebula clouds. These elements existed as crystal inside rocks. Many geological excavation of old rocks that formed many millions and billions of years old shows clear evidence of crystals made of minerals such as nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen that are necessary for amino acid to form. But there were two fundamental issues here. When the Earth formed, the atmosphere did not have oxygen nor water molecules. For amino acid to form, it needs nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. It is claimed that the water on Earth probably came from comets or asteroids outside of our solar system. An oxygen molecule might have formed from liquid water. Water is an essential solvent for life to exist. Without water, the life we know today could have not succeeded to survive. Now we have the necessary ingredients to cook the amino acid. But how did the amino acid form naturally on the primitive Earth? To examine this further, let's understand the Urey-Miller experiment. The Urey-Miller experiment was a chemical experiment that simulated the condition thought at the time to be present on the early Earth and tested the chemical origin of life under those conditions. In the 1950s, Harold Urey speculated that the early terrestrial atmosphere was composed of ammonia, methane, and hydrogen. One of his Chicago graduate students was Stanley L. Miller, who showed in the Miller-Urey experiment that if such a mixture were exposed to electric spark and water, it could interact to produce amino acids, which are commonly considered the building block of life. Although this experiment produced only very few types of amino acids, It helped to strengthen the speculation about the chemical origin of life on Earth and elsewhere in the universe. So the chemical reaction of certain components in the early Earth atmosphere is claimed to have produced amino acids. The primitive ingredient necessary for amino acid formation is referred to as primordial soup. Assuming the basic building block is now ready, what other factors are necessary to form a simple living cell? To understand further, it is essential to explore the cell structure in detail.